YouTube, what up? I'm back. I got 5 things completed recently. This took a little while longer than I thought it was going to get my next video of this series done because I had a whole bunch of stuff lined up that I was chewing through, but I don't know. I've been reading a little slower lately. I've been a little tired, a little unmotivated, so I didn't get through things quite as quick as I thought I was going to, but here I am now with a report for you. So we're going to start off with a couple of books. The first one is called A Slight Trick of the Mind. I got this one for my birthday, and it was it's written by a guy who I guess has written some fiction on Sherlock Holmes. So this book takes place in, I believe, the year 1947, and Sherlock Holmes is like 93 years old or something like that. He's like an old, feeble man. He gets around with canes. His memory is failing him. He's having a hard time recalling exact details of stuff. So, and this story takes place in kind of 3 different realms, I guess. The first realm, his current situation, on his little English countryside manor that he owns and lives at, where daily life goes on there. His housekeeper, Mrs. Monroe, keeps an eye on him, and her young son, Roger, has become kind of close to Sherlock over the years. And what their biggest thing they have in common is Roger really likes Sherlock's apiary that he has on the property. Sherlock Holmes is big time into beekeeping and the restorative properties of the royal jelly or whatever it is that so that's whatever, I don't understand it, but he's into bees, let's just say that. So we have current circumstances as daily life goes on around there, and then when he's away on this business trip to Japan, he kind of relates the events of this trip while he's over there. A guy has brought him over there because he knows that Sherlock had dealings with this guy's father back in the day, and this guy's father kind of disappeared on him and went to England from Japan and never came back. So he knows Sherlock had something to do with him. So he wanted to see if Sherlock recalled why his dad left, where he went, what if he's still alive, blah blah blah, right? So this little remembrance he's having, and it relates back to, while he was in Japan, Roger snuck into Sherlock's room and took out this old story, I guess, that Sherlock had started to write based on one of his past cases, and this kid really gets involved in this case that was never finished in this story. So it relates back Sherlock's kind of memories of this case as well. So it's kind of weird. It's these 3 different kind of stories going on that kind of bounce back and forth between the other, but they all kind of relate to each other in the end and to Sherlock Holmes's life, and there's kind of a bit of a tragedy at the end of it on his property, and it's kind of a weird, disjointed story, and I'm not really sure what they were trying to get across. I feel like I should have gotten something, but either way, it was entertaining. It was just kind of one of those stories that kind of you read from start to finish, and there was no real ups and downs and stuff. It was just kind of a steady read through, despite where the story was going. So it was kind of a different kind of book. Not my usual fare, but I did enjoy it for what it was worth. This one I really did enjoy, and it is called Alien Prototype. This is a book, that last book, the Sherlock Holmes one, was from 2005. This one's a little newer, from 2019, and it takes place after Alien Isolation. If you don't remember Alien Isolation, it was a book I read that was based on a video game that I played, where you play as Ripley's daughter, Amanda, who goes on this little mission to try and find out what happened to her mom all those years ago, and gets tied up in an alien story. And in the game, you can't fight the aliens. It's that game where it was on PS3, you just sneak around and hide in lockers, and it's very tense. It's very, very intense. Great game though. So this story takes place after Alien Isolation, and in it, a former colonial marine named Zula Hendricks, who actually had dealings with Amanda in Alien Isolation, has taken over leading a security team on this outpost called Jericho 3. Now, this outpost on Jericho is funded by a company called Venture, who is like a direct rival of Weyland-Yutani. And they have a bounty hunter spy kind of person, I forget her name, Tamar or something like that, who was working for this pirate crew. and is instructed to anything alien, bring it back, we'll pay you good money for it. So she finds one of the alien eggs when her pirate crew plunder this vessel, and dispatches her former comrades and takes the egg back to the facility on Jericho 3 and wants to get paid for it. The doctor there, though, Dr. Gagnon, is like, oh my god, he's going nuts. So he's doing all of these experiments with the egg. They get the facehugger to latch onto this guy who was a volunteer, and thus a baby alien is born. But they've been doing experiments on this guy before, and one of the experiments was a vaccine for like cellular necrosis or something like that. So when the alien breeded with this guy and spawned from this guy, it picked up the cellular necrosis disease. So it's not only an acid blood dripping alien, but it also has cellular necrosis, which is transmittable like that, and basically almost not instantly, but you're dead within a few minutes sort of thing. So they not only have an alien running loose on Jericho 3, but one with this deadly disease. So you're fucked no matter what, right? And they dub it the necromorph. So it's basically, once this alien gets out, capture this thing, destroy it, save the station, because people are dying left, right, and center. And at first it's like, okay, just get it back quickly, quietly, contain it, and everybody will still get paid. A couple deaths are okay, we can fudge that somehow. But of course, it's an alien story, so this thing runs absolutely amok all over everything, and in the end the body count is high, and that's all I'll say. I'm not going to spoil it for you. Next up, the Meg 2, The Trench. So the Meg 2 takes place 5 years after the Meg, and this is a 2023 movie, by the way. And oh god, what's his name? Jonas, the main Jason Statham, the main guy from these Meg movies. I forget her name, but the girl he hooked up with at the end of the first movie, who had the young daughter, she has since died in these intervening 5 years. And Jonas is kind of raising her daughter, Mei Ying. Her brother bought the company, the research company, in the Mana 1 space station. So they're now running these tests out of Mana 1. And they're actually doing expeditions below the thermal shelf where the Meg first came from, and discovering all sorts of new life and yada yada, that sort of thing. Now, they also have a megalodon named Haichi or something like that. In captivity, they managed to capture one, and this girl's brother, I forget his name, Ju Ming or something like that, has started training this megalodon shark to respond to commands and stuff like that. So that's kind of unveiled at this big publicity ceremony celebrating like an anniversary of the company or something like that. And not long after the ceremony, they're planning another expedition to go down under the thermal curtain or shelf. And it proceeds, but it goes a little awry when Haichi starts exhibiting this erratic behavior all of a sudden, and eventually breaks free of her captivity. And she makes a beeline down for where she first came from, below the thermal shelf, and is hot on the heels of these two submersibles, which Mei Ying has snuck on. So they got a child down there with them too. So basically, they try and escape below the thermal shelf, but Haichi makes it through with them, and they discover, I think, 2 more megalodons down there, and they discover it's mating season, and the megalodons are wanting to get their hump on, right? So, but of course, during this whole process, they take some supreme damage, and the subs get wrecked, and also they notice this strange station on the bottom of the floor, and that they did not know was there. So they have to not only exit their destroyed subs in some like spacesuits, underwater spacesuits basically, they gotta go to this research station where there is a hostile presence. This research station is actually run, one of the people at Mana 1 is corrupt, and she's been using her clout at this company to fund this research station it's actually a mining station on the floor of the ocean under this thermal shelf, where they're bringing up all these really rare elements that are in abundance down there, and making all sorts of bank. And the main guy running the research station under the water is a guy named Montez or something like that, and he's pissed at Jonas because he put him behind bars for some environmental stuff years ago. So they've got enemies in the station, they've got enemies in the waters with the sharks, so they got to basically try and find their way back up to the surface and escape this situation. But then, of course, it doesn't just stop there. The sharks get loose. They go towards land where they're going to eat all these people, and basically, the Jonas and his crew from Man. Oh, I have problems talking today. From Man on One have to save the day once again. So, um, really close to the first movie. Similar type of movie, a similar type of action, but the plot was a little bit different enough to give it its own kind of fresh feel and stuff like that. But when it comes to like big animal movies like that, you don't have to change them up too much. You're there for the spectacle of these creatures doing nasty things to humans and whatever. And so who cares what the story is, really? But I like the story in both, so I'm not complaining. But the whole point of these movies is effects, and violence. Simple enough. Next movie up, 65. This thing got shit on by a lot of people. I quite enjoyed it. I mean, I love dinosaurs, so what the hell? Why wouldn't I love it? Another movie released in 2023 starring Adam Driver. So the story is, and a lot of people seem to have problems apparently online following this story. It's pretty simple. So on this, basically it's saying, Earth isn't the only planet on it with intelligent life, right? All these millions of years ago, there was lots of other planets in the solar system, and they had life. So I think the world in question is a planet called Somaris or something like that, where a couple is seen hanging out on the beach with their young daughter, and you can tell something kind of tense is going on, though. So this guy, his name is Mills. He's a space pilot, and his daughter Naveen has some sort of rare condition where it will kill her if she isn't able to get treatment. So his partner or his wife or whatever is like, you take this 2-year job, you're going to be gone, it's going to suck, but it's the only way to save her. It's the only way to get enough money to save our daughter. Now he's going to be away for 2 years, so will she survive in the meantime, right? So that's kind of the situation we're heading into. So then we see Mills next thing we see is Mills on this ship, flying it and keeping watch over all the people on the expedition that are in cryosleep and all that stuff. But he gets woken up one day when his ship gets hit by this uncharted asteroid storm sort of thing. So the ship takes a lot of damage, ends up crash landing on this strange planet, which is Earth, 65 million years ago. So guess what? There's dinosaurs on it. It's awesome. So he crash lands on this planet. Everybody dies. All the people in cryosleep die. And Mills is about to off himself when he thinks better of it. And then soon enough, there is one survivor, a young girl named Koa, who speaks a different language. So there's all these language barriers between them as they try to, salvage this situation and figure out what the hell they're going to do. What they're going to do is an escape pod from the ship, crash landed, split off from the main ship, crash landed, I think 15 kilometers from their position. So Mills and Koa's goal is to make their way these 15 kilometers to this escape shuttle and blast off from planet Earth and get away from all these meat-eating metasaurs. So of course there's lots of dinosaur play along the way. They get a few T-Rexes even all at the same time. It's amazing. And this movie, I think people's problem with it, I heard a lot about it has a really small cast. Well, what the fuck does that have to do with anything? It's one guy piloting a shuttle. Everybody dies except this one girl. So it's him and a girl and dinosaurs. Like, who cares how many people are in it? This is the story. Like, just either enjoy it or not. Like, small cast, who cares? The other thing was there were some really awesome action sequences with the dinosaurs and stuff, but then in between it was just a lot of the pacing was really slow and whatever, and it was really quiet. So I wonder if people maybe had problems keeping interest. But to me, that kind of thing in a movie like this speaks more to realism. Like, it's just you for a little while before you find this girl. You're not going to be talking a lot. There's not going to be all sorts of exciting stuff going on unless you're getting attacked by dinosaurs. That's the only bit of action you hope you're going to be seeing. And they're just going to be trying to fix their ship and make their way as quietly and quickly as possible to their destination. Right? Like it's not like a big glossy Marvel movie where it's fights the whole time or it's jokes the rest of the time. Right? Like this is kind of a gritty like survival type situation movie, right? Albeit one with spaceships and dinosaurs, right? So I had no problem with the cast, with the pace, with the action. I highly enjoyed it. I really thought it was a good movie, but I'm very biased. Like, you put a dinosaur in a movie and it really doesn't matter. I'm gonna watch it no matter what. That's just the 12-year-old boy still coming out in me, which it does often because I'm an idiot basically, right? Last up, video game I recently finished playing, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Now, this this game takes place after the Into the Nexus game. Ratchet and Clank are basically being celebrated for having saved the galaxy again, sort of thing. And they're having this ceremony where they're getting celebrated. And I think Clank tells Ratchet, "Oh, and good news, I've fixed the Dimensionator, so you can go looking for your long lost Lombax race, right? And be reunited with your people." But at the ceremony with the Dimensionator, Nefarious shows up and tries to steal it and whatever. And during the action, the Dimensionator gets shot, and it starts causing all these dimensional rifts to open up, and basically the fabric of space and time is all peeling apart, sort of thing. So they get hurtled through these rifts, and Nefarious, Ratchet, and Clank all get separated, the three of them, and go to these different kind of timeline continuity things. Nefarious ends up in this throne room where another Nefarious, his version of Nefarious in whatever dimension he's in, shows up, and he's actually a badass, and he's like basically ruled all the galaxy in this dimension, and nobody messes with him, sort of thing. Unlike this Nefarious that got transported there, who's kind of a joke, right? Clank meets up with a Lombax named Rivet, a female Lombax, and they kind of form up a tag team. Meanwhile, Ratchet eventually hooks up with a warbot like Clank named Kit, and they form a little tag team. So basically, the entire time you're trying to, your main goal is to repair the Dimensionator and reset everything to rights and send everybody back to where they're from, and save, basically the galaxy before it rips apart. And you control switches between, every once in a while you're Rivet, then you're Ratchet for a while, then you're Rivet again. So as the story kind of develops, and you're placed wherever the action is, sort of thing, until in the end you meet up and hopefully save the galaxy. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but Insomniac does a really good job making games. The Ratchet and Clank series is just amazing. There hasn't been a bad game. The Spider-Man games that we're playing recently, that's an Insomniac game. So they really know how to make really good video games, and this Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart was no exception. It was fantastic. They didn't change things up too much. They always change a little bit. Like here we had the two different storylines and the two different characters you control, that sort of thing. They change up the weapon interface a little bit, but not that much, so it still is familiar. But it's basically a tried and true Ratchet and Clank style game, with a really good story, really good humor, and everything about these games in terms of playing them is so easy. They look amazing, they sound amazing, the story is great, and the game controls like a dream. So I will never ever hesitate to buy a Ratchet and Clank game, no matter what. I will always get them without asking any questions. They're fantastic. So if you've never played the series, there's a pile of games. There's so many Ratchet and Clank games, and they're all really good. So of course it would be best to start from the start, but sometimes you got to do whatever you got to do just to get into a series. So anyways, those are the 5 things I've been up to recently. If I seemed really out of it during this, it's because I am really out of it. I'm tired. I'm sore. I got a little gibbled last night. Forgive me for rambling on and being an idiot, but it's who I am. Peace.
Meow.